Alright. Gonna start some animation. Make sure all systems are go. Alright. Right, so yes. Last stream I was showing some of this process of layering these layers in Blender and painting this kind of nebula stuff in Clip Studio. And I'm going to try to start streaming and being a person. And yes, so today the agenda is to work on animation. And I'll show you some of the stuff I've been doing. Try to start streaming more often, sort of like a digital fossil record, to prove to myself what I've been working on and also for other people to see it. So I've been animating some kind of trippy little creatures here. I was kind of inspired by that scene in Fantasia where all the little on the bald mountain scene with all the little demon creatures flying towards the screen. So I wanted to animate some of my own little phantom creatures, and I'll try to find other layers in here. And I did this kind of stingray character. It's like this. It's a little stingray guy, and I just sort of draw a motion path first and more or less straight ahead this while draw like the basic form. What's up, Jamie? Oh hey man, I love your animation. I follow you on Instagram. For this kind of stuff I usually just sort of get like key shapes in, like for instance just draw like a sort of ball shape that would accelerate or slow down and then start to pick up speed and then change direction. And so it's sort of just about getting this form in first, and then I'll go over it on a few passes and add the wings and then the teeth and then the final stuff. The very last thing that I animate is the tail, because the tail is being pulled along by the body. So it would be too confusing to try to keyframe like from here to here just the full body. So when you're doing this kind of stuff, this sort of more free-flowing type stuff, it's easier to just get the mass in, like the main form, and then add the little parts that would trail behind. I like doing this kind of more surreal stuff, because with humanoid characters it's a little bit more obvious if you've made a mistake, like with the limbs or the fingers, hands especially. People like faces and hands is where you kind of have to put a lot of mental energy into making sure you're getting it right. But yeah, I like just drawing this kind of weird creatures, and then just trying to experimenting a little bit with this sort of sketchy stuff over it. I don't usually do this much type of adding this sort of, instead of having a like cell shading, usually I would cell shade this creature to be something like this, where I draw like a cell shade in on every frame. But instead I decided I want to kind of draw where the shadows would be as this sort of kind of hatched texture going around the form like that. Just give it a little bit of texture as he's coming in here. And I'll show you another creature in here. But yes, so mostly on this stream today I'm just going to be working on storyboards for a music video that's in the works. This is like a little demon guy coming down here. Sort of thinking of like a Dragon Ball Z type dragon. But I've been working all hours of the night and trying to wake up by noon. Sort of been how it's going lately. I think I got heat exhaustion the other day when I was getting groceries. It's so hot out. I work from home, so luckily I don't have to go out that much. But I've been doing my walks in the nighttime around like 10 after the sun's gone down. However, the grocery store isn't open that late, so I got out in the car. I haven't driven in a while, and it was like the temperature said it was 109 in terms of the real feel. It was like 98 outside. My car was so hot, and I have an old crappy car, so the air conditioner wasn't really working that fast, and I felt like I was about to pass out in the car. It was crazy. I had a really bad headache, but I feel better today. I've just been drinking a ton of water. But I felt guilty for not working for like a few hours at the end of the night, which is dumb because you have to take breaks. You can't just work yourself into a puddle of goo. You know, taking breaks is part of the process, and it's much better to take a half day off or a full day off than it is to work 6 months straight without taking a day off and then have some kind of physical injury or mental breakdown. So I'm just trying to convince myself, like I don't even have to convince myself. I know breaks are necessary. But I think especially if you're self-employed, there's this constant sort of anxiety that you stop working, you stop making money, and the bills are always coming. And also like your identity, your everything is attached to this thing that you do. So when you stop doing it, there can be sort of an existential crisis going on, which is silly. I know that's silly. And I know that rest is part of the process. It's part of the creative process. Because when you're resting, not only is it letting your body and your mind a chance to heal and recover, and you'll come back to your work even stronger, but during those rest periods are times to learn, times to watch things, times to read things, play video games, go outside, experience nature, make connections. You're building up your idea pool so that when you come back to the drawing board, you have more interesting experiences and ideas to draw from. So if you work 100% of the time, eventually you get to a point of diminishing returns where your energy's getting worse and your mood's getting worse. You're not making as quick decisions. So yes, rest, sleep, and just having fun, play, it's all important. And in fact, play keeps your brain elastic. People who play video games, I was looking at this study, it was saying that people in their like 60s and 70s who play like complicated video games, I don't just mean like the gacha games, the gambling type mobile games, but complicated video games like Zelda or things that have complex puzzle solving, they tend to be sharper. They stay sharper. And that's in combination with social life. So it's not just like, you know, just when you turn 80, you become a hermit and play video games all day. That would be absolutely detrimental. Social life is very important. Like the people who live the longest have tight-knit social groups. It reduces your stress hormones. But this is kind of an issue because I'm already very introverted and my social group just keeps shrinking over time. So I need to figure that out, but yeah. Anyways, there's like a million ways to be a person. It can be a little exhausting to be a person. Oh boy. What was I talking about? Okay, so the docket. What's on the list? The list. I guess I'll just show what I was working on yesterday. Right, so this is a music video I'm storyboarding. It's actually a continuation of this one that I was working on. Online social groups count too. That's a good point. A lot of people don't know how to use the internet. Social media can it's just like a tool, like any other. It can destroy you, or it can be something you can make legitimate connections with people. And yeah, like tons of artists that I would have never even heard of is thanks to the internet and YouTube. And yeah, like my friend actually my /friend/ girlfriend actually I met on a Facebook group for traditional animation, and she helps me on everything, including this music video you're seeing right now. So don't let anyone poo-poo online social connections. Just make sure you're not getting catfished. Right, so this is a music video about like some psychedelic stuff to some animals in space, and they have to help this little alien guy who's on a planet. The color's getting drained by this cloud deity. He's absorbing all the color out of planets. So what I've been working on is just like a sequel to this music video that has sort of the same characters, but that's about it. It's not like the same storyline or anything. But I animated this one in about 2 months, and of course we use a lot of nebula and space backgrounds. We're building up a bunch of space backgrounds in Clip Studio to use in these projects. Something I like about space stuff is when you do scenes in space, you don't really have to worry about like really technical things like perspective, or basically perspective. So like this scene, this was mostly done straight ahead, and all the balls and stuff is going straight ahead, and I kind of used like a texture brush in TV Paint to give it a little bit more and then this is just like combining loops, and I filmed some glitch effects on my CRT TV, and then this is just like dropping a ton of loops together to make a tapestry of visuals coming towards the screen. I like kind of combining loops because you can do it like Legos, where you can get different effects, get a lot of mileage out of stuff, especially if you're short on time. Then this stupid bug keeps flying by my face. If you're short on time, animating little loops is a way to keep something visual happening on the screen, some motion happening on the screen, without having to animate every frame. Like every frame is a new drawing. You can let stuff cycle, but try to combine it in ways where it doesn't look too obvious. Like a lot of this stuff's kind of limited animation, but I'm trying to let the special effects do a little bit of the heavy lifting. Then like this scene's all straight ahead as he's falling down. Oh yeah, is my audio good? Is there music in the background? I can't really hear. There should be some like video game music in the background. So the animals save the day and the aliens are happy. Yeah, so like again, short timeline, short budget. It would have been nice to animate all these aliens waving. This is a lot of characters though, and we didn't really have time. So it's just the main character alien waving, and then the background's kind of like, frozen. But I hope it still communicates the idea. Then they fly off in space, turn into a little star, and they're chilling with their lemonade after saving the day. Oh, thank you. It sounds good. So the next video is mostly focused on this main character here, this wolf. And oh yeah, before that, I did start a animation reaction channel, and I'll put the link in the description in the pinned comment. But I just started this channel to react to different animation and analyze scenes. Mostly right now I'm kind of looking at trailers, like the Transformers trailer and like Sonic the Hedgehog stuff, of course, and analyzing fight scenes from Dragon Ball Z. And basically the idea here is to go by scenes and slow things down frame by frame, talk about the animation techniques from an animator's perspective, because a lot of reaction type channels, it'll be like there's a certain angle to it, such as therapist reacts or lawyer reacts to some lawyer show, or it'll just even be like a regular person, like a couple, like I show my wife Dragon Ball Z Super Broly or whatever. And so that's sort of the angle, and it's kind of, it's built upon these big personalities and people, like you just connect with these characters. This sort of I don't know, like the term parasocial, but it is sort of a parasocial experience of like looking at media that you like through someone else's perspective, and you build this connection with them. So I've been looking at all that, watching all these reaction channels of people with big personalities and big emotions, and I don't have a big personality or emotions. So my angle is to be more analytical and just look at just look at it from an animator's perspective. So it's a little bit more focused on a little bit of the more technical aspects, but also it won't all just be super dry, I hope. But I think even like people who aren't animators will probably find it interesting to see, like when you slow things down and you look at how things are done, it kind of deepens your appreciation. It doesn't make it any less magical. It makes it more magical because animation is still magical even if you understand the techniques. And I think there's something there. But also the reason I created a second channel for this type of thing is, of course, YouTube's copyright situation is pretty nuts. Like I don't want to risk having my animation channel getting a ton of copyright strikes just for looking at stuff. And I know I probably need to make these a little bit more edited, make the animation screen smaller, make my face bigger, even though I don't really want the focus to be on my emotions because I don't really emote. But in terms of avoiding the copyright stuff, making it more transformative, but the thing that I'm doing to make it transformative is offering more commentary, more legitimate commentary beyond just, whoa, that's crazy. So yes, so I made this channel, you can go to it. And what else? Oh yeah, the copyright stuff. So I have gotten a couple claims already, not copyright strikes, but just claims. But like I said, I just don't want to risk my main channel getting copyright claims. The other issue is I don't want to flood this main channel where it's more of my personal work and tutorials with a bunch of reactions to other media and other IP. I just don't want to flood it, keep it more niched. So this channel, this animation reaction channel, will be super focused on just reaction type stuff and maybe like video game reviews, basically just reviews of things, and none of my own personal work on it. So yeah, the copyright stuff is getting nuts though. Like my music channel actually got claims. I got 3 different claims from a few different companies. I can't remember. I think one of them was actually Warner's Music Group, which is crazy, claiming a song that I wrote and recorded myself in Reason, the program Reason, played all the instruments, wrote everything myself, not an ounce of AI used, 100% my own creation. They claimed it. They gave me a copyright strike saying they matched it to some other song that didn't sound anything like mine. So there's just a bunch of bullcrap going on with YouTube's automated copyright nonsense. And then yet somehow these AI garbage slop channels can post a bunch of AI songs and monetize it. It's totally bullcrap. So yeah, it's a bunch of bullcrap going on, and there's a lot of fake, not content farms, but there's this one group in Italy. They also claimed my music video, and I looked on Reddit, and a lot of other people were saying that they were claiming their videos as well. And it's this total nonsense YouTube channel that is essentially sending out thousands of false copyright claims, hoping that people will get scared and not fight it so that they can steal everyone's AdSense. And YouTube is just a middleman. Like, YouTube doesn't decide. It's, if you take it legal action, it's outside of YouTube. So I know there's like reasons so that YouTube can protect itself, but they need to start like really banning channels that falsely claim other people's work. I think like if you make 2 or 3 false claims, I think your channel should be banned from YouTube, because there's a lot of bad actors out here trying to steal other people's content through false claims. And yeah, so sorry this sort of turned into a rant. I wasn't expecting to talk about that, but I guess that's just the nature of the stream of consciousness happening here. I'm also drinking coffee. What was I doing? Okay. Gotta put on my sock. Okay, yes, so this is what I was working on. Basically, the past couple of days I did these storyboards / thumbnails, and it's based on a script. So I wrote this script for a music video. It's about 6 pages, and the whole song's about 5 minutes. And usually I've come to learn that about 1 page of script is roughly 1 minute of animation. So I probably need to consolidate stuff a little bit, or I tried to combine a couple shots and I got rid of a couple shots, but the more shots you get rid of, especially on a short 5-minute thing, the less coherent it could be. Not that it has to be super coherent, because it's a trippy, just surreal kind of dream scene anyways, but I still want it to have some kind of narrative flow. So basically, I'll just explain what I have so far. So in this music video, the first shot is a shot in space. It'll be super trippy, surreal, nebula, surreal creatures, a bunch of colorful things coming towards the screen. And then it cuts to the wolf, and he's got these tubes sticking out of his brain. So it's sort of like a simulation that's happening inside of him, and there's this energy flowing out. And then we cut to his 2 bandmates, and they're observing this orb that has planets and trippy stuff happening inside of it. And then we close up to the wolf's face, go back into his mind, and we see the sun. And this giant death cap mushroom approaches, and it absorbs and eats the sun. And then some planets in space. The death cap mushroom comes in, absorbs them. So the death cap mushroom is causing all kinds of problems in the solar system. Then we cut to Wolf's home planet, and then an image of his foxy wife and son fade over. And then the giant mushroom comes and it absorbs them. Oh no! And then we cut to his face, and he's grimacing, and he wakes up. Oh! And then he gets up, looks over, looks at the orb, and he comes up to the orb, and this planet forms. And it's this mushroomy kind of planet. And that's where I'm at so far. And then they're gonna look at each other and nod. And then, I guess, so I did most of these yesterday, but I'll just explain the rest of the whole music video then. So the three characters look at each other, and the spaceship sets course and blasts into hyperspace. The spaceship flies towards the mushroom planet that was shown in the orb. The three travelers look at each other and do a rock and roll peace sign. A beam of light transports Wolf out of the ship to the surface of the planet. Wolf looks up and turns his head, taking in the surroundings of a dense forest jungle. The beam transportation light is still emanating off his body, dissipating as it flows up. Pan. Wolf walks through the alien forest jungle. A plethora of mushrooms and plants of many different varieties. A couple flying insects float by. Wolf's wrist watch scans the fungi on a tree. Some floating goop hits Wolf in the back of the head, and he turns over to look. Wolf sees an opening in a cave that is emitting colorful goop floating out of a crevice. We slow zoom into this crevice. Wolf wedges himself into the crevice. The colorful glue is flowing past his face, showing him distorted. Then a high-angle shot with the stalagmites pointing down, and this will frame the scene. He comes out the other side into the cave. At the center of the cave is a collection of colorful mushrooms. This is the source of the rainbow goop. And the camera slowly zooms into this mystical circle of magical mushrooms. And then we get a close-up of Wolf's face as he pushes his snout into the mushrooms, taking in a couple huge inhales with his nose, and his nose gets really big as he sniffs. He begins to nibble the mushrooms. Then he takes a big chomp and gulps a mushroom. The background changes into colorful psychedelic shapes. Wolf morphs into a guitar that squashes down and then launches up like a rocket ship. Wolf flies on his guitar like a witch's broomstick through a galactic abstract space environment. Phantom creatures fly toward the screen. Wolf looks down concerned, and he sees the death-cap mushroom below eating a planet. Wolf strums his guitar, which shoots out a green laser beam at the death-cap mushroom. The mushroom absorbs the blast and begins moving in Wolf's direction. Wolf starts flying away, mushroom close behind. The mushroom arms grow out to catch Wolf, who dodges and fires off 3 more laser blasts at the mushroom. The mushroom easily absorbs the blasts. The mushroom's morphing arms shoot out further and widen like an umbrella, folding in on Wolf and capturing him like an insect in a Venus flytrap. We get a close-up of Wolf's face being engulfed, with his eye peeking through as the mushroom fully overtakes him. Then we see nothing but darkness. We're inside the mushroom, which is a blank, hazy void. Wolf floats around in the void. We get a slow zoom into Wolf's eye, and inside his eye, a vision is revealed of the past, present, and future. A good future and a bad future. I'm going to paint these in Clip Studio, and the paintings will cross-dissolve to show time passing. So the past will start out with a normal wolf howling at the moon with a mountain in the background. Present, our current humanoid wolf with his guitar and city in the background. Future, mountain is a futuristic city with colorful lights, and wolf has cyborg parts. And then we see a bad future overtake the scene. With red haze and smog, a city is purely industrial and on fire. Wolf is a dystopian robot with a glowing red eye visor. And then we cut back to Wolf's face, and he hard blinks and snaps out of it. Viewed from behind, we see Wolf scanning the hazy void in front of him. He closes his eyes and then takes a calm, deep breath. A third eye starts to open up on Wolf. We zoom in through the third eye and see a UFO. Inside the UFO is the alien from the Sky to the Ground music video. We zoom into the alien's eye and see Wolf floating in the void within the alien. The alien's antenna wiggles and shoots out electrical sparks in sync with the electric guitar. Then we go to a wide angle, and the alien's UFO launches into hyperspace. The death cap is approaching the mushroom planet. So the planet's going to be big in the lower third of the screen, and the mushroom with its arms are going to be widening out to consume the planet. Where am I? Then the alien's UFO pops into view above the mushroom at the last second. The alien UFO teleport beams downward, passing through the mushroom's head. Now we're inside the mushroom, and inside the black void we see a small beam of light forming above the floating wolf. Wolf's eyes show the highlight coming closer. The light connects with Wolf. The screen goes pure white. Then we go outside the mushroom in space. We hold for a few beats, and then suddenly Wolf bursts out from the top of the mushrooms in the beam of light connected to the alien's UFO. And then as he shoots out the mushroom, he creates this hole, and out of the mushroom starts shooting out all kinds of stars and rainbow goop in all the different directions. And the planets that were inside the death cap mushroom that he ate, they start floating out and released back into the galaxy. And as this is happening, the death cap mushroom dissolves and dissipates away. And then we cut to a panning shot showing the planets falling back into place across space. And then Wolf free falls through space. He turns his head and sees a saucer shape approaching. It's a giant record. And the bird's eye view, he lands on the giant record with the words "Spinning Round" written on it. That's the name of the song, Spinning Round. So the spinning round record saves him. And then Wolf flies through space through a super colorful nebula, planets, colorful looping shapes, and shooting stars. Wolf rides the record home like a ship through the colorful space nebula sequence, and then he lands safely on his home planet. And next week we end the video showing Wolf and his fox wife and son in a hot tub. And yeah, so they'll just be chilling in the hot tub, and then it fades to black, the end. So that's a 5-minute thing. Bro, I don't have money for Clip Studio Paint. Ooh, yeah, there's different versions though. I have the full version. I mean, everyone's money situation is different, so I don't want to say like just get the cheaper version. I know there's free programs like Krita. Yeah, I would probably just recommend searching for free alternatives, and then save up if you can, and get the cheaper version of Clip Studio if you find that the free versions aren't sufficient. So yes, so this is the first minute sort of figured out here, and then these guys are gonna nod at each other. And I'm just gonna cheat and do this little transform tool, just so I don't have to draw a whole new frame. So it'll just be like that. And then as he nods, I'm actually gonna have him close his eyes. So he'll close his eyes like he knows, yes, I know what I need to do. But when I in between this, I think I'll do freehand in between so it's not as robotic. But doing this little transform tool thing, this like shift and trace, it keeps the forms consistent. And since it's just the head, it's okay for it to not have squash and stretch and other things. And since it's like very little motion, oops, I moved the wrong one. Since it's very little motion happening, it's okay for the differences and in-betweens to be very subtle. So it'll just be like that. I'll get this guy nodding. I was having a little trouble trying to figure out how to get all three of these guys looking to where it looks like they're all looking at each other nodding. And I realized framing it this way, whoops, God, I keep moving the wrong one. Hold on. So to make it look like they're all looking at each other nodding, and Wolf is the most important character, so I put Wolf on the right here, then have the other guys on the left. So I was, when I had it framed a certain way before with Wolf in the middle, like from back here, it would have been impossible to make it to where Wolf was looking at all three of them. He could only look towards the left or towards the right. I want them all to be looking at each other. So I framed it this way, and now Wolf is in the center, screen center, and so he's looking towards this way, and these two characters are over here. So we're getting extra bang for the buck. We're getting it all. We're getting them all looking at Wolf. He's the leader, so that was the most important thing. And he's the one that's about to go on the adventure. Is anybody working on anything right now? If you're watching, what are you doing? Okay. Next up, the spaceship sets course and goes into hyperspace. Okay. So I think for this, I'm gonna have the spaceship kind of rotate up a little bit so we can see its underside, and then it'll shoot out. It'll like do a kind of thing like this. Also, so this shot, we have this planet here on the lower third. So I'm gonna cut to the next scene and it'll be the spaceship down here. So this sort of focal point is gonna match that area. What I'm doing is kind of like thumbnail slash storyboard slash semi keyframes. Just sort of, the more foundation you put at the beginning stages, the less work you have to do later on, because you're putting in some thinking, you're putting in a lot of cognitive effort, and that'll make the later stages go smoother. Hold on a second. So you know what? I think I have an idea here. So this will be sort of have the perspective going like this. So this little focal or a vanishing point here is where, when he starts going fast, we'll have the stars kind of going along these lines. And we'll have the spaceship tilt up as it shoots, so we're gonna see the spaceship's underside with the little glowing. Maybe it'll leave this like trail of light behind it. Okay. I'll turn the frame rate down to 3 frames per second. Just see how this. I need a little bit of anticipation here. So before this planet, or I mean this UFO shoots out, I'll have it anticipate. It'll charge up. Now usually I'd have something like kind of wind up backwards, but I don't know if in space if that would make sense, and I also don't want it to be too cartoony. So we'll have this sort of rotate like this, and then it'll show, it'll charge up. Actually, let's make this white. There we go. That white will shoot off screen and it'll go like this. This beam will be trailing behind, kind of like the beams in Tron. Pew. And it'll start arcing this way. That looks pretty cool. Oh yeah, motion paths help so much, especially when you are traveling across the whole screen. You know, you don't have to make a motion path for everything, but it certainly helps keep track of things as you're dealing with a wide space of, like wide spacing of things. And maybe as the UFO disappears, the little white trail of light will actually start dissipating. So the UFO will be off screen, but we'll still have this little white light starting to break apart, following the exact same path of motion. And the last parts to dissipate will be the ones that were closest to the UFO. Be like this. So yeah, this is like, I guess this is sort of like an animatic more so than storyboards, but the drawings are very rough. Like a lot of animatics and anime production are straight up key animation, like insanely detailed animated backgrounds. Characters are super on model. As an independent solo production, I ain't got time for that. But luckily the characters that I work with tend to be more simple. And I try to take advantage of a lot of more, like, whenever the characters are online, or not online, but like, well, I don't know. I guess this is like character acting, sort of. He wakes up and these little wires are connected to this machine. And he turns over. But I simplified his face a little bit. I guess he looks a little cuter. I did simplify his face a bit. I don't even know if it's that noticeable, but on this one he has like 2 extra lines up here on his forehead. and I got rid of that and just have it just be one singular line that comes down to the triangle in the middle of his forehead, instead of having these two shapes over here like this, to where it would be 3 triangles on his forehead. It's just one triangle in the middle of his forehead. It might seem like a minor detail, but it's gonna make it a lot easier to animate, especially with face type stuff, because with faces you have to keep things proportional. The more aspects, more things to keep track of on a face, the more of a nightmare it can become. And I think I'm also, this video, gonna try some stuff with the eyes, breaking the eyes apart a bit, kind of more anime style, where you wouldn't draw the whole eye connected like this. So like that's how I drew it in the last video. If you go over here, all the eyes are connected, the lines around the eye. But I want to do it where it's more broken up, where it's just like small lines underneath the pupils, and then there would be the white gap like this. So it just has a certain look to it that's a little bit appealing. But you see this a lot in anime, where not every line is connected. So I'm just trying out a slightly different look for this one. Ooh, I better save. Alright, I'm gonna get a drink of water. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back. Oh, yeah. Of course, darn it. Oh yeah! I forgot I was gonna show before I was working on these little phantom creatures. I forgot to show part 2. These ones aren't colored yet. Well, turn it down. Sorry if that noise outside is loud. I'm animating these on 15 frames a second. But this is gonna be like a ghost horse, and we're gonna have the legs kicking, the front legs kind of kicking around like a circular motion. But I could not figure out how to do that, so I'm gonna let Brittany do the legs. And it's kind of got some ghost hair. And sometimes I'll draw different parts with different colors just to keep it easier to keep track of. So the ghost body is blue, the hair is red. Can make it a little easier when you're dealing with a billion lines. And then roughed out this little bat. This little like Cyclops bat character. And then of course when we color him, they'll all be colored black, but have white outlines. So I think that looks pretty cool. It's also a little bit faster to just have everything be one solid color. And I am very short on time. But I'm posting these as a Patreon loop pack for Patreon on October. So they can be kind of Halloween themed creatures. Basically these loops are basically like my shop, animatedloop.com. There's some animation courses on there. Well, mainly one, just a 2D fire animation course, and then a couple PDFs for the basics of Blender grease pencil, and some on how to animate electricity and lightning. The main point of animatedloop.com so far has been creating animated assets for video editors, musicians, DJs, video jockeys, streamers, etc. Anyone who works with video to use these animated clips into their own videos or concerts or live streams. And so it's all focused on the idea of loops, animation that loops. So that's what this whole thing is. I have to make a new pack every month, and I post it on Patreon and my website. So this is like a constant thing I'm doing in the background on top of animated music videos and any kind of other freelance work I get. So that's why I have to kind of work all the time. Yeah, this one was kind of annoying to do. And then this is like a kind of sandwormy type creature. Opens up his mouth, kind of like a monster you'd see on Star Wars or something, maybe Dune. And so basically the idea with these loops is things starting out small on the screen, and then they come into screen and fly away. So this character, I already cleaned him up. This character is a ninjin, which is I believe a Japanese folktale creature that's like a mermaid whale creature with humanoid arms. But I like drawing kind of things that are flying or underwater, because it allows you to do these more sort of S-shaped curves and these motion paths that you can do fun things with when you're not bound by gravity. Like humans, things on land have very start and stop motions, but if you animate them all floaty looking, it looks wrong. However, animating things with a little bit of a float to them is totally fine in the context of water or space. And I think there's just something trance-inducing about that. I believe that was the last one on here. But yeah, like this is like the motion path I drew for this guy. You can see it's like just a bunch of S shapes. Alright, so he shoots into space. Next up on the script, let's see here. This was on 11. Okay, next up. Okay, this will be the mushroom planet. Haven't really figured out the design of the mushroom planet yet, but I guess we can just have these sort of giant like mountainous type, maybe mushroomy, maybe just alien type plant stuff protruding out of the surface of the planet, just so we know this isn't Earth or like a planet that we know about, and probably do something with the color to further distinguish it. Maybe there'll be some like kind of moonlight craters in here. Then the UFO will be entering. Okay. I think I'm gonna have the UFO kind of come down on an arc here. So we'll have the UFO kind of coming. Or actually, you know what? Oh, I got it. It's gonna pop into existence really fast from here. From up here. Okay. Okay. So this will be where the UFO ends up. We'll have this little energy trail off. Okay. Perfect. So I think that'll flow into it pretty good. Alright, let's see the flow here. Okay, so we're gonna cut from they look down. Okay, so here's the sequence of events. There's two shots. This UFO shoots out. The next shot, it lands here. So I think that feels pretty good. And it lands above the planet. And I'll figure out like the timing and everything more once I start dropping this into Final Cut and stretching stuff out to the proper amount of seconds. But this sort of like storyboard thumbnail keyframe hybrid process, it helps me figure out the flow of things, because like it's one thing to draw one storyboard and write like camera directions on it or draw out where the character's gonna go. It's a different thing to actually see it happening and then see how one shot links to the other in motion. Again, kind of like an animatic, but just sort of trying to figure out also just thinking about the flow and how the backgrounds will interact with stuff. Once I actually start animating, just having this little foundation is going to make stuff go so much faster. And it's not about having perfect drawings. Like, things can be messy, you know, like I was mentioning before, the anime animatics are borderline just straight up animation with characters that are super on model, and that takes so much time and polish. But this is more functional. Like, obviously I'll have to tighten up these drawings a bit, but like the core idea is here. Like, this is the blueprint. Even, you know, you don't have to shade stuff either, but I will put in highlights where it's relevant. For instance, on this shot with this glowing orb, I know I want the characters' bodies to be having the glow affect them. So that's why I drew the little shading there, sort of as a reminder that, oh yes, they're gonna be, you know, they're gonna be lit up by this glowing orb. And then like this background here, I'm gonna probably draw some kind of dark gradient, maybe like a moody purple or blue kind of gradient in the background that gets darker as it goes up, and more of the light is going to be coming from kind of below or where the orb was. So this light in this scene is being lit up by the orb that's over here. As he looks over off screen towards us, he's looking at the orb. So the orb is lighting up all this stuff, all this equipment that he's on. And these little tubes back here are connected to the orb. Actually, I need to draw some of these little white things coming out of this tube so I can remember that links up to here, and here's the tubes. The white energy will be following through from this shot, and I'm actually just going to draw myself a personal note here. I'm just going to draw this arrow that tells me that's the direction this white stuff's going, and then I'm going to draw an arrow here to remind me that it's going this way into the orb. So it's like this fox's, it's all like this sort of ecosystem of energy flowing. And, you know, maybe this isn't proper notation in a real animation production or in a studio. This isn't the proper way to do things, but if it's just yourself, if you're by yourself, ultimately the only person that matters for understanding what you're drawing is the audience that is going to be absorbing it. So if it's just you and a small team, you can develop your own vocabulary, your own lexicon, your own terminology, your own way of doing things that is efficient to you. It doesn't matter if this isn't the 100% proper way to do things. And I mean, even like what's proper, like every studio, there's going to be differences. Like they all have proprietary software. They have different methods of doing things. But even still, like the core principles remain more or less the same. Like the principles of animation, that's not going to change depending on where you're working. Like the 12 principles of animation are always the 12 principles of animation. All right, I'm going to write my little note up here to tell me what shot I'm on. I'm just doing it by the second up here. So that's that shot. And then we cut to here. Yeah, give it a little save. I'm not even anxious right now, it's like I'm always kind of anxious to start streaming. I mean, I haven't streamed in 7 months, besides a couple days ago. But I guess it's more like trying to turn my brain into talking mode. It's a little bit stressful, like turning on a car that hasn't run in a year. It uses a lot of energy, but once I start, it's fine. It's weird how that is. Okay, so this is 115. Okay, so that's that shot. Spaceship flies towards the mushroom planet. Then the three travelers look at each other and do a rock and roll peace sign. Not really. You know what? I'm gonna come back to this shot later, but I'll just write in over here a reminder that this is what this is. Whoops. Rock and roll sign. That's a little note to myself to come back to that shot. And then 125, a beam of light transports Wolf out of the ship to the surface of the planet. I mean, technically could cut back to this shot and just have the beam of light do like this. But I don't know. Okay, let's see the whole flow so far. Mushroom eats the sun. Mushroom eats the planets. Oh yeah, I don't know if this is apparent, but so like a mushroom, you know, it doesn't really have a face or defining features. So the death caps kind of have like a blackish top, like it gets darker. So I drew this thing here. I'm gonna sketch out this sort of like half circle up here, and I feel like this kind of works as an eyeball. It like kind of feels like, oh, that's its source of consciousness, perhaps. I don't know if that works or if it's apparent, but even if it's not, it at least offers something in this space of nothing. Like without it, it would just be like this, which is boring, just like a tube, an egg. It's too ambiguous. So I'm hoping this tiny little design element will add at least a bit of personality to this mushroom entity as it's absorbing stuff, and like the eye can get bigger, squash and stretch. Originally in the first script I wrote for this, Wolf, the wolf just sees in his simulation of the future, he just sees the mushroom eating the sun and eating the planets, and then he wakes up in shock. But the end of the video is going to be him chilling with his wife, the fox wife, and his son in a hot tub, and that was the only time they would show up in the video. So then I talked to the band member, the singer, and suggested, what if we showed his son and wife in his hallucination at the beginning, show a picture of his home planet, and then his son and wife appear and they get eaten by the mushroom, and that wakes him up and causes a sense of urgency of, oh my gosh, I really got to stop this mushroom before he gets my home planet and my family. So I feel like this will hopefully give it a little bit more of an emotional narrative, even though like these music videos are just kind of trippy, psychedelic, fun, weird, whatever. I have been wanting to add a little bit more narrative, a little bit, like it's not going to be Shakespeare or Breaking Bad, but I do want to experiment more with character psychology and showing thoughts happening on characters and motivation for the action happening, so it's not just a bunch of motion and cool random things, but some kind of consciousness in the screen, because I think that's what takes animation to another level, is creating characters that are real, that people can connect to at some level, even if it's fairly surface level. There's something magical about connecting with fictional characters. That goes for live action as well, but live action has the benefit of using real life actors who are real people. Even if they're playing a character who's not real, that's a flesh and blood animal on screen. Whereas for animation, you're just looking at drawings or 3D renderings, whatever, stop motion, doesn't matter. You're looking at things that aren't people. Now the voice acting can do some heavy lifting, because then you're hearing a person and that elicits an emotional response. But for a music video, you don't have the benefit of voice actors or any actors. You have to do all the acting through your pencil, and but if there's no dialogue, then it's in a way more universal, because you aren't relying on dialogue to communicate stuff, which means you aren't relying on a specific language to communicate stuff, which ultimately means anyone around the world can understand it. And in that sense, you have to make sure that the visuals are telling the story, because you can't put any words here. So it has to be all in the expression and stuff that's happening. Bez Frez, what's up? Thank you for dropping in. And they say, you're doing great, my dude. There are not a lot of videos like this on YouTube, especially by someone with your skill and experience and style. Every second of this is inspiring and valuable to me. Thank you. Well, thank you. I greatly appreciate the kind words of encouragement. Like I said, this is a little bit out of my normal way of doing things. I'm a little bit out of my habitat here, but I want to do this more, especially if people find it beneficial at some level. Even if you just have this on the background, I find, working on things, I'll put on streamers, even if they're playing a video game or working on a pet project or doing circuit bending or working on a song or drawing or writing. I'll just listen to streamers who are doing anything, but there's sort of this, it kind of makes you out of your own head. It gets you out of your own head because you're hearing someone else's consciousness. You're into someone else's little corner of the world, billions of people on the planet, and you get to connect with someone at some level over the internet, which is really interesting and weird and in a way frightening, but also inspiring. So I like to have stuff on to listen to while I'm working. It also helps me concentrate, because if I don't have anything on in the background while I'm working, it's easier to get up and get distracted, but you get sort of in a flow state, at least I do, listening to music or just like video game music. So it's a different mindset though for me to become that person, for me to become the content that someone else is absorbing. I'm not used to this mindset. Even though I've been on YouTube for 20 years, I don't think I'll ever get used to it. And that's okay, because you just keep doing it. Like, I don't think I'll ever get used to being a person, but there's no other choice. So there's no point worrying about it. You just go with it and keep living one breath at a time. And that's just my philosophy of doing things, and it makes me less nervous that way. So it's like a weird combination of anxious to start, but once I start, I'm not anxious. It's frustrating because I know once I start, it'll be fine. I don't know. It's just like a quirk in my brain I just can't fully get over. Even though logically I know there's no point to anxiety, because anxiety is like worrying about the future or fixating on the past. But if you bring yourself to the present moment, like everything is just the present moment. But then you finally get to the present and zip, oh wait, no, now it's not the present. Now I can't even catch up to the present. Like, I'm not fast. I can't even think fast enough to get to right now. I'm still a millisecond behind. And when I start talking, my brain gets slower. But I'm keeping this old music video up for reference. Even though this UFO's not complicated, I'm just keeping stuff for reference to remember what the characters look like and the general vibe, since this music video I'm working on now is a continuation. I also have to make sure I don't reuse. Once I start creating this, reusing a bunch of the same planets. So I'm making new planets for this. Okay. Okay, I gotta get focusing again. Ooh, I don't know if that would be a good idea. Okay, I could do something like... This might be too much work, but I'm thinking I could do something like animating the beam of light. It'll flow through perspective, and then the planet will come up, and we'll see the beam of light hitting Wolf onto the planet. Let's see here. I don't know if this is making sense.
the rock and roll peace sign. And this comes up. Okay, I think I have an idea here. Okay. Okay. Okay, so Wolf is gonna be coming towards the camera in perspective through this beam of light, and then the beam of light is going to start to close in on itself and go down like this as the planet comes into view up here. The planet comes onto screen from down here, and it'll kind of slow in and stop right around here. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, I like this, I like this. Alright, so from here, we'll then have the beam of light get smaller as it connects with the planet, and then we're gonna have it dissipate. Okay. And then from here, pew. Okay. Pew. And then I have to draw, I think I'll draw Wolf being like upside down, or maybe he's coming head first towards the planet. So it'll be like this. I wonder if his eyes should be like stretching. Nah, that's too cartoony. Just have it be a little bit more straight. Be kind of like serious. Coming down serious. Just draw this little cross section in his face really quick. Try to keep track of the proportions a little bit. And the snout is just like a cone, sticks out. I have to remember that wolves have kind of longer snouts. I always want to, my default is to draw more like a cat face, because I love cats so much. But the wolf heads are more long. Of his little cap. we'll have him looking down like this. He's like kind of serious. His snout will be sticking out the furthest from his body. We'll have some of his hair shooting out, kind of spiky stuff coming to a pretty sharp point. He's kind of got Vegeta forehead a little bit. Okay. I'll probably maybe have his ears flapping pretty fast as he's coming. Whoosh. He basically has like a cloak, so we won't even... I don't know if we need to see his feet. It might just be like this. Just come to a sharp triangular point there. And we'll have his hands like this. And I'll touch up some of the stuff later, but it's just about getting the shape and the idea in here. Whoosh. Okay, so we'll start to see him here coming into view. Okay, now what I might do, probably just copy and paste this and make it bigger coming towards the screen so I don't have to redraw it. Okay. We'll have him get like this. It's gonna start changing perspective. We're gonna basically see the back side of him as he's gonna start coming down towards the planet. Just make this really sketchy for now. Okay, at this point he's just going to become, he could become more dark, then he just becomes like a little dot and disappears. Whew. I'll fill up my water. Right, so he lands on the planet. Let's get the time code in here. It's 125. That's a 5-second shot, 125 through 130. Next shot, Wolf looks up. Wolf looks up and turns his head, taking in the surroundings of a dense forest jungle. Okay. So this is actually probably more than one shot. So I need to show him looking up. Oh, wait a second. Actually, you know what?
maybe I could angle this a certain way. Maybe he'll be landed kind of like the Terminator. Okay, cut here. Maybe he like is looking down. And then he can look up. Okay, I think I have an idea here. He'll be like on one knee. I'm just scribbling out this on a layer just to get the composition in, but I'm gonna draw over this once I figure out the basic composition. I'll have like a ton of kind of vegetation around him, maybe have some in the foreground too. Just put some really thick in the foreground. Fungi stuff here. Okay. So first we're just gonna see a white glow of where he would be. Okay, we'll add that part later actually. Okay.
I'm going nonverbal right now. So I'm trying to think. Sorry, I'm not talking. I have to focus harder on character stuff than doing the more trippy type of drawings or straight ahead type stuff. I don't particularly love drawing characters. But he's in this kind of cloak, so I'm just trying to figure out his anatomy. Underneath the cloak, he's like kind of resting on his knee here as he landed. And the foreground is gonna have some kind of trippy stuff, kind of Nausicaa type vegetation. I'll design this better when I come back to it, but for now I'm just sort of roughing in. It's like the general composition, the general space that this could take place in relation to the character. Some blocks of color in here. The foreground. I'm using this to kind of frame the character. Like these little vegetations are kind of pointing towards him. Not that it's confusing where he is, but that's a composition trick, is to have the scenery framing the character, or if you have multiple characters, the focal point character, you have the other characters all looking at him or her or them, whatever. And like we naturally look at where things are pointing. If we see an arrow pointing, we look towards where it's pointing. If we see a character looking, we look towards their gaze, where they're looking at. And you can design shapes to act as sort of guiding arrows to draw your attention where you want the audience to look. Oh, there we go. I seen a couple curves here to show where his booty is. That helps communicate the anatomy underneath this cloak. Okay. Got some little tiny mushroom type things on the ground here. Alright, got this kind of framed in here now. Okay, now I can do the beam of light over this character. Okay, so wakes up, absorbs the orb, blasts off into hyperspace, zooms towards the planet, and the characters are going to release him. And he shoots out of the beam of light, lands on the planet, and now, connecting from the shot of him landing onto the planet with the light dissipating, there will be light over him that will dissipate. So we'll have it kind of swirl up. So kind of like that scene on Terminator where he lands, and there's like energy. And this will be kind of a wave principle type of thing go on here. Whoosh. And we'll have it kind of gooping up here. Some of it will be clinging onto him as it goes up. Whoosh. I'm just flipping back and forth. It's called scrubbing the frames. I'm not using my light box, but I'm just sort of flipping back and forth to see how one frame relates to the other. Actually, I don't like that part. Might be getting a little too much stuff going here. Hang on. Dang it. We'll have some light coming from behind him, shooting up. Well, at any rate, I can fuss with the lighting after I actually start animating this stuff. Basically, I'll fuss with that, make it better later, but after the light comes up, he's gonna look up, and then we'll cut to him looking at his surroundings. Then we can get a shot of him walking through this landscape so that we can absorb a good 5 seconds of the scenery that he's seeing, so we can be kind of put in his place. I guess I don't hate that. I mean, it's a start. Okay. So that happens, and then we're gonna have him look up. And I'll just do the little transform trick. At least for the cloak, I'll probably have to redraw his head based on the angle it's at. Yeah, gotta redraw the head. This will be looking more to the side here. Maybe his ears will perk up. You kind of have a stoic expression. His ears are gonna perk up. Okay, I think that's good enough for that. And slowly looks up. Yeah, and then we'll get to him taking in his surroundings. Okay. Wolf looks up, turns his head, taking in surroundings of a dense forest jungle, the beam of transportation light still emanating off his body, dissipating as it flows up. Maybe I should do a shot of just the forest, like a panning shot, just taking in the background. Wait. Looks up. Okay, we're gonna do a shot of him walking through the forest, but I'm gonna have this foreground and up close panning so that we don't have to animate his legs. And this will be in the foreground. So this whole layer that's dark will be in the foreground, panning across him in the front so that we don't have to animate him too much. Just be kind of in this cloak walking around. Maybe there'll be some like big vines hanging down too. Some little growths coming off of them, wrapping around. Maybe there could be like some kind of waterfall in the background that walking by. Could be like orange, maybe like orange color, so the water looks different. What's up, militant loser? Oh wait, Many-tent loser, I think. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Thank you for dropping in. And there'll be some... This one's gonna have a decent amount of layers to pan across here to get some nice parallax scrolling, and this shot will happen for about 5 seconds. And I'm gonna have the mid-ground layer that's behind our main character, and have it have some more open patches of flat color so that our character will be readable, and then have more detail behind it. So it could be like a kind of rocky, kind of stalagmite type layer. And then behind this can be like more complicated type vegetation. And we could probably have some insects or like trippy creatures flying around here. So like maybe there's some kind of like eyeball creature that flies around somewhere. This is already getting a little bit busy, but maybe they could be small in the background. Maybe they could be like a little eyeball creature in the water watching him. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing here. Let's think here. Maybe these like two flying eyeball creatures. Could have like a couple fins. They're just like kind of chill. They aren't really a threat. They're just really chill eyeball-y creatures. And our protagonist isn't particularly concerned about these guys, kind of just ignoring them. Just to add a little bit of, you know, more detail to this ecosystem. Maybe these stalagmites will have like eyeballs in them. Maybe. I don't know. I might do that, might not. Whew. Remember to stretch, remember to stand up, remember to drink water. Okay. So wolf walks through the alien forest jungle. A plethora of mushrooms and plant of many varieties. A couple flying alien insects float by. Wolf's wristwatch scans a fungi on a tree. So I could have a shot. Starts out with the tree and then he can walk in frame. So we'll have some kind of interesting fungi looking thing here. This fungi catches Wolf's attention for some reason. Maybe it can be different colors, like kind of rainbowy color. Each of these little growths coming out, spiraling out here can be a different color, the rainbow, so it creates this sort of spectrum swirling around. I see I'm improvising. When I write a script for animation, I get the core ideas in, but leave things open for improvisation to happen while you're animating. So it's all still part of the writing process in a way. Okay. Now, so it'll cut to the shot of the mushroom, and then Wolf will walk into frame. And then maybe we see the shadow approaching. Nah, I don't want to do that. You can just have Wolf approaching from here. He sees it. It captures his interest. And he can pull up his hand. He's gonna pull up his hand here. And he'll look down at his hand. And bring up his other hand that will pull back his sleeve, revealing his high-tech wristwatch. I'll design this watch to look better. I don't really know what it's gonna look like yet. Maybe it has like a little antenna shooting out of it. Oh wait, I know what to do. So he pulls back his wristwatch, and then a little antenna shoots out here. Then he brings his hand back to click something. Click a little button, and then when he clicks the little button, it'll shoot out a little thing to scan the mushroom. And he'll look back at the mushroom as he's scanning it. As he's scanning it, a little goopy thing will hit him in the back of the head. So a little goop comes into screen. And it's gonna hit him in the head and pop. Then he's gonna look over like, what? Have his mouth open a little bit as he looks off screen. It's like, what? Then we can cut to a little crevice, an opening in the cave where this goop is coming from. Give it some hot pink highlights. I'm late to the stream. Could you explain your frame layers, how you have them broken up? Sure. I mean, this is a little messy, so I'm just making storyboards. But sure. So, yeah. It's a little punk rock, kind of just doing things, but like right here is kind of like my main storyboard layer. So this is like all stuff happening on a single layer. And then like here, there's a bunch of this thing happening in the background is on this layer, since these are new frames for this little element coming on screen. And then I created a new layer for this character because it holds for 7 frames on the storyboard sequence. So I'm basically just animating most of the stuff on, you know, this layer and like this layer up here. And then whenever I need an element that just holds for several frames, I'll just create a new layer for it or stretch it out and then animate parts that move on separate layers. But once I actually export this stuff, it'll all be exported as one image. Whew, gotta give it a little save. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for your question. Once I start, like for instance, on this stuff, I would keep all the line work on its own layer, of course. So, like, when I'm animating it, I keep the roughs on their own layer. And this is all just the rough animation. And I might have deleted it, but I might do like a really rough layer and then do a tie down pass where the roughs are a little bit more clean. And of course I'll create a layer like this that has a motion path and just set it to hold so I can see it the whole time. But yeah, I just sort of break things up logically based on what, you know, just batch things up logically where the layers would go. And keep the color and line layers separate in case you have to change the colors. Then if I was doing highlights or shading, I would create another layer on top of this specifically for the highlights, and then another layer specifically for the shadows. So I would create another layer, and this could be like the cell shading layer, and it would be like that, and I'd go by frame, drawing in the cell shading if this character was cell shaded that way. Okay, now they're just going to be looking over to screen left. So since he's looking this way, I'm going to have the opening to the cave be on screen left. And it'll just be this little crevice here. And we'll slow zoom into it so that it's more clear where we're looking. And we'll have some little goops coming out of it. Have some goops of different colors and variations. have some stuff in the foreground to create a little bit more depth. Some more of these vines, motifs. Some like little growthy stuff happening on it. And maybe some stuff in the foreground here. And I'll just draw a really rough, like, kind of grid just for a little bit of a basis of the perspective. And it's kind of, well, I wasn't really planning on it, but I guess this is sort of a tilted angle thing coming here. And it'll just be like some kind of shapy patterns on the ground. And as it gets closer towards the cave, these little patterns will get more bunched together to create the illusion of perspective. But the things that are closer will have more refined detail so that it'll try to communicate that perspective a little bit, because when things get further away you see less detail. You can also do things like atmospheric shading. It's like a bunch of little things you can do. And I guess we could have some kind of rock structures sort of leading into this. Well, yeah, I'll probably draw these layers, these backgrounds into Clip Studio where I can get some painting texture. But I like to just storyboard and draw everything in TV Paint. Then I'll just import whatever things I need to turn into more textural stuff. I can import that into Clip Studio, set this as a layer, put the opacity down, and paint over it. And the point of contrast, wherever the most contrast is, that creates a focal point. So we have this white light here, which is contrast, and it'll be more contrast if we contrast it against some darkness. So this little crevice, as it comes into the cave here, it gets darker, and as it comes out, it gets a little lighter. And I want to have some of the glow happening on these surrounding rocks, so it kind of helps further sell the point that there is light coming out of this area. So all the highlights are basically going to be relating to this area over here. Can almost look like a flame. Like he's like walking towards a flame type of thing. But yeah, this will just be like a slow zoom in. Nothing fast happening, just so we can take in the scene a little bit. So he looks over, slow zoom in. So this is like his POV shot, basically. Ooh, always gotta remember to save. I've been streaming. Oh my goodness, I've been streaming over 2 hours. This is a long stream for me. I know I talked more at the beginning of the stream. I kind of get a little nonverbal when I start focusing. I don't know how some people stream so long. But I hope you like the music. I can't hear it. I just have it on the Soundflower setting. So hopefully the music is nice. I have a little playlist of mostly old Sonic and Genesis and Saturn related songs. So there's already 120-ish frames in here. This is all drawn today and yesterday, mostly. But there's about 60 to 65 distinct shots in this music video. And we've gotten up to at least past the 130-second mark. Let's see. Wolf's wrist rot scans the fungi. Floating goop hits Wolf in the back of the head and he turns over to look. Wolf sees an opening in the cave. That's where we're at. So the next scene is Wolf wedges himself into the crevice. I'm gonna write my time code up here so I can keep track of things really quick on here. .135. Then this whole sequence is 140. Through 148. So this whole sequence is 8 seconds. Which I think I definitely need every second of that because there's a lot of action happening here. Because he walks in the screen, pulls out his wristwatch, scans it, gets hit in the head with goop, looks over. I timed it out in my head before. Like, I know some people use a stopwatch, but I kind of just, I keep things a little bit flexible, so I might move these around once I start animating it by a, half a second to a second or so. Because I can't really perfectly plan things out with a stopwatch because you never know how things might change. I know masters like Miyazaki can, and he can write down the code on his storyboards and keep it pretty much consistent, but I like to keep it a little bit more open to messing around with the time. Unless there's a part in here that has to sync up with a beat or a lyric, then that has to be pretty much set in stone. So this part's just 3 seconds. And then Wolf wedges himself into the cave. Oh yeah, Wolf wedges himself into the cave. The colorful goo is flowing past his face, showing him distorted. But I think I'm just going to end it there because I need to take a breather. Whew, thanks a lot for watching. Check out the videos on the channel. Also, like I was talking about before, I have a animation reaction channel that you can check out. I'll show it. Basically this Transformers, well that was the most recent one, but just this chill 90s animator. Yeah, so far the thumbnail is just Vegeta from GT with a mustache, but I'm posting on here a fair amount, so just stop by if you want. Just nerdy discussions about animation stuff, and I have a Patreon and a
website called animeloop.com. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining. And oh, sorry if you just now joined, but I appreciate you showing up, and always appreciate your supports. And of course, you can rewatch the stream, leave it on while you're working on stuff. There's a lot of parts where I don't talk a lot, but at the beginning of the stream I did talk a lot. But you know, just something to have on for ambience, I guess. And streaming schedule, not really a schedule. I can't really do that at the moment, but I'm gonna try to be more active, you know. Just like, I'm just gonna try to stream at least once a week. Who knows when it'll be, but keep your eyes open, I suppose. And if I do get in a rhythm and figure out a schedule that works, then I'll, you know, make a community post about that or talk about it. I was streaming every Sunday for like 2 or 3 weeks one time last year, and that kind of fell apart. It's hard because once I get on a project that has a really tight deadline, that sort of takes priority. So yeah, but what was I doing? Oh yeah, I was ending the stream. Okay, goodbye. Thank you for watching, and everyone have a great day. Remember to drink water, stay safe, and that's about it. I'll see you later. Goodbye.